right, guys. Hey, welcome back to the second episode of tonight's live show. I'm your host, Greg Romero, three-time Olympic coach. We are live on BMX Coach Live on the BMX Training YouTube channel. Again, if you guys are just showing back up, please forgive me. We had some technical difficulties on the last live stream. I don't know what happened. It just completely froze out. And listen, I would be remiss if I could not finish this presentation that I have made for you guys. So today we're talking about nutritional, physical, and also emotional and mental recovery after a race. And so we went through the importance of recovery, the three key components of recovery, which are going to be, it's going to be nutritional, okay? Nutritional, physical, emotional, mental, as well as sleep recovery, okay? And we're talking about recovery for racing as it pertains to days in a row, 3 days in a row. And a few of you guys might have been on here earlier, and if you guys have missed it, then you guys are in luck because I'm going to do the presentation again. And if you guys were here before, again, welcome back. I want to be able to pull this off, right? So again, we talked about recovery. All right, we talked about recovery, and we're talking about recovery after the race day, like what you should be doing as soon as you cross the finish line for the last lap of the day in an effort to get fully recovered for the following day of racing. All right, and so when we talk about recovery, we want to talk about the definition of recovery first. When it comes to racing or training, we're basically imposing stress. We're imposing a stimulus. And what we want to do is try to recover in an effort to adapt to that training stress or that stimulus. And once we recover and adapt, then we're elevating our game. So yes, is it possible for us to recover after day one of racing, going into the second day feeling better? Absolutely, especially if you guys are trained up to do so. Okay, so let's talk about, I'm curious to know if it would be really, really beneficial for you guys to go into the next day with a full charge in your battery and be able to perform. It would be awesome, would it not? Now listen, when it comes to training, we want to recover. When it comes to racing, we want to recover. And that intent is to integrate the stimulus and the stress imposed on the physical body as well as the mental and emotional bodies, all right? And the sooner we recover, the sooner we can reap the benefits of the imposed training stress. In fact, it's been said that we don't make our gains through actual training, we actually make our gains through rest and recovery. So a lot of tips I'm going to give you, we're going to keep it really simple. And I really think that these are some key core components that you guys could easily use, that I use with my Olympic athletes as well as my personalized coached athletes. Now, we're talking about back-to-back days of racing. Recovery is key just to get back to your baseline of performance and perhaps even above, right? Starting off the weekend on a Friday or Saturday of racing and then ending faster. That should be your goal, all right? And at the same time, you want to utilize the amount of time that you have between races because the window of opportunity to recover is not that big. You know, if you end racing, say at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening, and you got to be up 6 a.m. in the morning, listen, you have less than 12 hours to recover. So every hour counts before you go to bed. And of course, you know, we're going to talk about bed and sleep, but you know, 8 hours would be ideal. Sometimes that's not possible, and that's okay. But if you guys can get 8 hours, that means, you know, right after the race is done, the business trip is not over. You can't just sit up and relax. And well, you can sit up and relax, that's the idea, but you want to make sure that you stay up on your nutritional, your physical, and your emotional, mental recovery program before you go to sleep. So that said, the whole goal of recovery is to limit the amount of muscle tissue damage and begin the process of recharging the battery so you can have a full charge the next day. And there are many different things to focus on when it comes to recovery, and all of them play a role in feeling fully recovered to either race or train the next day. Okay, and let's go over to, let's talk about immediate recovery. So after you finish your last lap, basically what you want to do is you want to get a 5 to 10 minute easy ride in, and you already want to start replenish again with simple sugars, okay? And if you guys are showing up now on YouTube, hey, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Bring the comments in, bring some questions in. We're going to answer them here in a moment when I'm done with the presentation. Talking about immediate recovery, right? So that easy bike ride, the goal is to remove metabolic waste. If we can remove metabolic waste, then we're allowing the muscle to bring in more glycogen, bringing in carbohydrates into the muscles, and at the same time potentially removing edema, which is swelling, and giving the muscle an opportunity to recover. So that's the whole point of a soft, easy recovery with the seat post high and doing a soft, easy pedal around the parking lot after your last lap. At the same time, you guys want to focus on simple sugars immediately within the first hour, and that way your digestive system doesn't have to spend a whole lot of time breaking complex carbohydrates into simple sugars in an effort to take advantage of the small window of opportunity that your muscles have to restore glycogen storage. Okay, restore glycogen storage. I need to speak slower. And that's the goal, right? The goal really post-event is you want to take care of the muscles which have utilized glycogen as an energy, which turned into metabolic waste. That metabolic waste, we got to remove that out, put it in the bloodstream, cycle it out, okay? And then bring new carbohydrates or simple sugars back into the muscles and start creating a storage, start recharging the batteries in the legs. And that way those muscles can work. They could accelerate out of the gate. They could react out of the gate and accelerate to the first jump, right? After that first window of opportunity of doing a soft, easy pedal, getting some simple sugars in, then you guys can go ahead and go about your normal dinner routine. And I spoke about that earlier, which consists of a plate of food, right? Like I tell my athletes, listen, we don't weigh food. We just go 1/3. You take a whole pie, we cut it in three, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. We do 1/3 carbs, 1/3 protein, 1/3 vegetables, okay? We go about our normal dinner routine. And I would say that's the secret here, is keeping it really simple: clean carbohydrates, clean vegetables, clean protein, nothing fatty. You don't want to have like a hamburger or a pizza. Although if you guys feel like you deserve it, go for it. But if you guys are high performing athletes that spend a lot of money to travel, listen, you guys are high performance. You guys are just like high performance race cars. High performance race cars require jet fuel, and they don't go with the regular fuel that you can get at the local petrol station or your gas station. We also talked about hydration. Hydration is key. Athletes want to replace at least 1% in loss of weight with 16 to 24 ounces of water. Okay. Now that's a big science, right? Like, you guys are not endurance athletes, and you guys are not, you guys are not endurance athletes. You guys are not sweating a whole lot. Okay. However, you guys are still utilizing water, and it's important for you guys to hydrate. So in the case of post-hydration, you really don't want to be at a deficit. So therefore, it's more important to hydrate during the race and also before the race. Now, before you actually race, I would try to consume at least 2 glasses of water. Okay, 2 glasses, 16 to 20 ounces. Okay. And that's before you guys arrive to the track. And then during the race day, if you guys are doing a long race day, 16 to 24 ounces every 75 minutes. Just sip on it. You don't need a gulp. That's hydration. Let's talk about post-event. Okay. After the race is done, the goal is to remove metabolic waste as much as possible. Okay, we talked about doing an easy spin. That's going to do it. However, there might be some left, right? Depending on what level and how much racing you did throughout the day. If you only did 2 laps, you probably don't have a whole lot. But if you guys have raced 2 bikes or 3 bikes, open class cruiser, and you guys had quarters, you guys did a bunch of laps. So things like an easy bike ride right after immediately at the track. But then when you guys get back to the hotel, think about massage, foam rolling, or even some kind of compression effect like a Normatec, right? Like Normatec legs that actually do a cycle of massages from the feet all the way up progressively up the leg. And what that's doing is it's creating a vasodilation, right? A constriction of the muscles where it's forcing pools of metabolic waste back into the bloodstream, and it's also manipulating that blood to come back up towards the heart. Okay, simple massage will work as well. Nothing deep. You guys could just get someone to rub out, like 20 repetitions of each quad and also the hamstring and maybe the glutes in the back and call it a day. You guys don't need a whole lot. Now there is something that there is something that a lot of pros like to do. They like to fill up the bathtub with water up to thigh high, as if you were sitting flat in the tub, and then they go ahead and utilize the ice from the ice machine and they fill up that tub with ice and they'll sit in it for 20 minutes. That's good too. Okay. I wouldn't sit in it too long. I would say anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes will suffice, and that will also give you an effect of pulling metabolic waste out of the legs. Okay, and also at the same time beginning reducing the reduction of inflammation, which is edema, removing edema, or in this case I'll just say inflammation. All right. The only thing I have to say about ice bath, of course, is when it comes to ice baths, man, you got to be careful not to go like neck deep in like 32 degree or 40 degree water and sit in there for 10 minutes. Listen, the only problem I have with that is from an adrenaline standpoint, right? Like, we don't need to tap into the adrenal system. You guys have already been tapping into the fight or flight mode during your racing. So it doesn't make sense to double tap into that, because what's happening is when you jump into that ice cold water, there's a shock effect, and that shock effect is a neurotransmitter dumping of norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is going to turn on the fight or flight response, and all of a sudden you're going to be shivering, you're going to be fighting it, you're going to want to jump out of it. So 5 minutes is fine. Stick with your breath and get out. Take your shower. You could take your warm shower, and that's totally fine. And then, of course, the next best option as far as the physical treatment post-event is stretching and foam rolling. I personally like foam rolling. If you guys do foam rolling, there's not a whole lot of stretching to be done. I would only stretch if there is a acute tight muscle specifically. Like for me, I tend to get tight glutes, so I'll do a glute stretch and hold that stretch. But traveling with a foam roller is really good. You guys can roll out the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, and the back. It's really, really good stuff. All right, then last but not least, we're going to talk about sleep and emotional mental recovery. Okay, sleep is going to be the key, right? That's where you guys are going to get the most benefits. That's where the batteries are going to be recharged. That's where the muscles are going to be repaired. Okay, so we want to be able to sleep well and effectively get into REM sleep, that deep sleep. Okay, so in an effort to do that, we really want to take care of the emotional and the mental body. Now, when I say the mental emotional, I mean the overthinking, the emotion, the excitement. We want to wind down. And the way that we wind down is we could do one or two things. You can either meditate, or you can journal, or you could do both. Journaling is really good because you could just do a brain dump of what happened that day and just write it all down. And once you've written it all down, then it's out of the emotional and mental system, because they work hand in hand, like a hand in a glove, if you will. Journaling is really good. It's a brain dump. It empties the tank from all the overthinking, and it's going to give you a great opportunity to sleep well. You don't want to be thinking about gate starts before you go to bed. Meditation is great. Anything that can slow down the mind and bring you back to now, bring you back to your breath, get out of the fight or flight mode and get more into that sleep and rest and recovery mode. Meditation is really good. There's a lot of apps for meditation. That's super helpful. Again, sleep is the key. Sleep is the key, and you want to set yourself up for that by the way of, again, nutritional recovery, physical recovery, and also emotional, mental recovery. All right, that's what I have for you guys today. We're going to do a quick session Q&A of Ask Coach G here in a moment. I'll see you guys right back after the break. Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now.
Nitro with the nice flow.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now. Let's go. Stay focused, here the heat come. Concentrate to the sound of the beat drum. Yeah. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome back. Thank you very much. Thank you for being patient. If you guys were on the early version of the BMX Coach Live, we had a technical difficulty where YouTube wasn't accepting my stream. I take full ownership for that. Please forgive me, and welcome back. We're going to do a truncated version of the Ask Coach G section of the show, and we're going to scan through some questions. Hope you guys are doing well. We already have a question coming in. Would love to talk about. See, Jack Baker says, what brand of drink do you use during the race days? It's funny, today, I make my own drinks. It's pretty crazy. So what I'll do is I'll fill up one of these, 16 ounces of water, and then I'll take roughly, maybe around a half a teaspoon, a quarter teaspoon of Himalayan salt, boom. I'll take a calcium magnesium pill, I'll break it apart, put it in there, boom. I'll take a little bit of agave, around a teaspoon and a half of agave, boom, throw it in there, and I'll shake it up and I'll drink it. That's going to be my race day drink. Now, there's lots of brands out there, right? But they're all utilizing the same thing. They're using some kind of sugar, some kind of glucose, and then they're using some kind of mixture, proprietary mix of electrolytes, which is going to consist of salt, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, and even sometimes Arm & Hammer baking powder in the way of sodium bicarbonate. Sodium bicarbonate is a good one. Let's bring up some questions. We're doing the super chat here too, guys. So if you guys like to donate, listen, I'm not mad at that. You guys are always welcome to donate and support the channel. And if you can't, don't worry about it. You guys could just share the video, man. If you guys could, our sport has a rough time retaining riders, and I think it's just through not having enough information. So if we can share some information and help people out, that's what I'm doing. I'm helping you guys out. David Bluer says, hey coach, I won every moto in my class at the Gator National thanks largely to your videos and advice, especially proper warm-up and sprinting training advice. Yeah, man, I followed you on Instagram, man. You look fantastic, and it's great, man. I'm really, really grateful to be part of your team, be your coach, right? There's another question here. This is a great one. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. Mez says, how does Mary Jane affect recovery? Mary Jane being marijuana or the chronic? Well, it depends on what kind of Mary Jane you're talking about. Are you talking about the stuff south of the border, that kind of stuff? Or are you talking about the hydroponic stuff that we get here in California? Now, listen, I don't smoke often, right? It's really rare. In fact, I rarely do it. But the one thing I do notice that marijuana does, it definitely taps into the adrenal system, right? It really does. It kind of will put you in that fight or flight mode. I don't know that it'll tap into norepinephrine. It'll start stimulating that. And again, we don't really want to stimulate norepinephrine or adrenaline. Now, will it affect you? I don't know, because I've never done it for racing. So that's all I got as it pertains to Mary Jane. That's pretty good. And I couldn't tell you the last time I did it. Jay Guns. Jay Guns asks, how often do you stretch or recommend stretching? I used to stretch daily as a gymnast when I was younger. Started daily stretches a couple months back. Hamstrings are being stubborn. Laugh out loud. Here, let me give you a couple parameters when it comes to stretching. Number one, I only recommend stretching at night, not before training, not before a race, especially the day of. And the reason being is that studies have indicated that when you stretch, you're actually pulling apart filaments, which acts as a paralysis of the contraction of the muscles. So there's lots of studies on that. You guys can totally Google that. I would not do any stretch routine. Now, what you can do is do a dynamic warm-up, which is basically stretching, but it's not a static stretch. So when it comes to stretching, we think about stretching and then holding it, and that's a static stretch, and that's where you're going to come across damaging the filaments of the fibers, the muscle fibers, creating a pseudo paralysis, if you will. Now, does that mean that the muscle is not going to work? No, it's just not going to work as effective. So dynamic stretching is really good. I love dynamic stretching. You guys will see pros at the races do dynamic stretches. If you guys are involved in any of the training plans I provide at bmxtraining.com, there's lots of dynamic exercises that we do that warm us up, right? Warm up the physical body, the emotional, mental body, of course, and we do that through dynamic stretching. The other thing too is if you guys are experiencing any kind of acute tightness, right? Like I like to use a foam roller to address acute tightness, and really that's like, think of a foam roller rolling out dough, and what you're doing is that you're really working on that myofascial tissue, which is the actual tissue that encompasses the muscle. Okay, and so that's the part that tends to kind of get bunched up, and that's the feeling that you get. But if you have a tight hamstring, then you definitely want to think about training the hamstring, right? Because you're probably quad dominant. You might want to think about training the hamstrings. And then if they're still tight, see a chiropractor. Chiropractors are getting smarter, they're getting better, and they know how to shut off muscles that are always turned on. Okay. The other thing that you could do for that tight hamstring is use a foam roller and just roll that hamstring out. That's what I do. Okay, let's check out Jev. Jev says, anything natural you suggest to help sleep? Journaling and meditation, that's what I go to. I practice gratitude. I practice mindfulness before I go to sleep. I think that's going to be the best supplement, right? Definitely the phone before sleep, you're just activating the brain. I don't think that's a great idea. I would definitely think about meditation. I would think about journaling and just doing a brain dump. Now, in terms of supplements, there's people out there that do melatonin. I don't need to do that. The idea before sleep is that you want to wind down and make sure that you get back to the breath and not go to sleep excited or in fight or flight mode, right? Being emotionally recovered before you go to bed is key. And at the same time, going to bed tired is key. And at the same time, you want to make sure that you get to bed before midnight. At the races, you guys want to get to bed as soon as you can. Now, in terms of supplements, I'm not really in a position to speak about supplements that aid in sleeping. I know essential oils are good, but again, you might want to tinker with those weeks before a race, because I've played with some essential oils and they've knocked me out, and I've had a hard time waking up, right? There's like cedar wood will like keep you it'll help you fall asleep, but I have a hard time waking up. What's the other one that I can think of? Man, when it comes to me, it's purple. Anyways, thank you so much for your question. Also, thank you so much for showing up for the earlier stream that we had today. That was a lot of fun. Here we go. Gene Troper says, could heating pads play a role in lieu of stretching? Okay, so for what purpose, right? Like stretching for what purpose, and then heating pads for what purpose? Stretching, we talked about it. Static stretching, we don't want to do static stretching. So you're looking at heating pads to do what stretching does. Well, stretching doesn't, studies have indicated stretching doesn't really do anything except create some kind of paralysis of the muscle filaments in the muscle, which reduces performance. So heat. Now, that's different, right? Warming up. Now, if you want to warm up, I would just do dynamic effort warm up. I would also do a sprinting warm up on the bike specific warm up. I think that's getting warmed up specifically is going to be key. And I would presuppose that that's what you're talking about in terms of heating pads. Now, if you're an older guy like me, is heat going to help? I don't know. I know that when it's cold, yes. But that's a tough one, man. I'm really not in a position to talk about heat. I don't have enough information, but I'll look into it and get back to you on that. How about that? Darren Ross says, I drink a Pedialyte Sport before and after a moto. Have you heard of anyone else doing that? Yeah, I mean, if you're drinking like a big bottle, that's a lot, right? If you're at the World Championships in Rock Hill next year and it's 100 degrees with a 100 degree index, yeah, I mean, you're going to need all the electrolytes that you can get. Pedialyte, it's expensive. Me personally, I spoke about it earlier. I like to just take a bottle of water, take put my own salt in it, put a calcium magnesium pill in it, take a smidgen of sodium bicarbonate in there, and then use agave, or you guys could use honey, right? And boom, you have a custom concoction that you can actually regulate and fine tune. Okay, Gene Trosper has another question or a comment as it pertains to breathing technique, it says. Let's bring that one up. Guys, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Gene Trosper says, Dr. Andrew Wheel promotes a 4-7-8 breathing technique to help induce sleep. Ooh, I don't know what that is. I might need to look into that. Thank you very much for sharing that. I really appreciate you. What other questions do we have? Jack Baker says, I love sleeping in hotels. We talked about Mary Jane. We talked about heating pads. We talked about stretching. We talked about electrolytes. Creatine. Does creatine have any benefits for racing? Yes, I think so. It just depends, man. I personally don't react well to creatine. It tends to dehydrate me and I tend to cramp. But I've understood that a lot of other athletes and riders have benefited from creatine. Jev says, are you familiar rather with Untapped Maple products? Our bike shop sponsor gave them to us at Whittier State Race, and they definitely gave a sugar energy. Yes, I have not heard of that. All right, guys, I think that's about it for tonight. Man, my voice is out. This is my third live feed today. Any more questions? Any more awesome questions that you guys have for me? I'm very happy to give it a go. JFT Performance says, hi, Greg from Bogota. Thank you so much for showing up. Man, we get people from all over the world. That's what makes this community so awesome and so fun. Cage Moss had a question. Mark McGovern said, hey, Coach G, Olivier Lopez says, hola, buenas noches, says hello, good evening. David Blair is in the house. Jack Baker's in the house. Jev's in the house. Gene Trosper's in the house. Darren Ross. Any other questions that you guys have for me? I'll stick around for another minute or two. Man, I'm really excited, man. I got a new bike today. I'll talk about that until I see some questions pop up. But I was just at Canyon Bicycles, and man, I became an ambassador, and they hooked me up with a road bike. If you guys check out my Instagram at BMX Coach, I'm going to be posting stuff up on that. Jay Guns BMX says, thanks, Coach. Guys, thank you very much. Any other questions coming through? I'm down to answer any other questions. Again, I'm here for you guys. Hey, listen, are any of you guys going to the World Championships? I'm really curious this year in Glasgow. If you guys are, say yes. World Championships, I am going. I'm putting together a program, a limited program, limited riders, and it's going to be really intimate where I'm going to give you guys, everyone's going to get their own personalized training program, getting ready for Worlds. We're going to start right after the Bakersfield World Championship qualifier. I'm thinking around May 1st or 2nd, we're going to start, or maybe a week before that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do bi-weekly checkups. We're going to interact and talk about World Championships. We're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about how to prepare physically, emotionally, and also be ready nutritionally, because the World Championships, and also mentally, because the World Championships is a different beast. You guys are spending a lot of money for the World Championships, and yeah, you know, I'm looking forward to taking care of an intimate group, getting ready for the World Championships. Okay, we got some questions coming in. A couple Canyon ones. Sam Pilgrim is hooked up with Canyon. Yeah, there's a lot of cool. David Blur says, nice, my wife rides a Canyon special mountain bike. Huge fan. Yeah, so far, I think the bike is really nice. Tips on training peaking, tips on training peaks and races. So how do I recover after sprints? Darren Ross. We'll answer that one. I like that. Darren Ross says, how do I need to recover after sprints? Okay, so if we're doing short sprints, right, anything under 10 seconds, we're utilizing the ATPCP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate creatine phosphate. We'll say that again. Adenosine triphosphate creatine phosphate. We're using that energy system, and that energy system can only be recovered through food stuff that's in the body. Okay, we need up to 3 minutes recovery in an effort to bring that back up to full recovery, and that way we can get the most out of your next sprint. 3 minutes is the magic number. Okay, not 10 minutes, not 2 minutes, 3 minutes while doing short sprints in an effort to get the most out of each sprint. Now, in terms of what you need to do for recovery, I wouldn't sprint, I wouldn't ride hard. You could do a soft, easy pedal, okay? And I would do that just in an effort to bring your heart rate and your breath back down. You guys don't need to do much. Very, very easy, okay? Thank you very much for the question. I really appreciate you, Darren. You always have good ones, and I always repurpose your questions on Instagram, so I really appreciate you. Transponders, chips. I still don't, chips on the, yeah, I don't, JFT performance, I don't understand. Chips on the training peaks and races, transponder chips. Yeah, I'm having a hard time deciphering what that means. You got to give me more context. Jeff, let's see, Jeff has another question. If you guys have any more questions, get them in now. I'm going to be taking off here in a moment. Jeff says, was thinking of going to Bakersfield for my first national, but never rode the track, and there will be no practice. Thought. Ooh, okay. So yeah, that's a tough one, right? Like if you show up, the best thing that you could do is watch other people ride the bike and try to do some kind of mental visual practice of how you would hit each obstacle. How is there no practice? You would have to get practice on Thursday? Is that the deal? So, you know, here's the thing. If you guys have mastered the sport where you guys feel really comfortable with riding anything and everything that's in front of you and be able to do it with mastery, complete competence, right? Then yeah, why not? Give it a go. You'll only adapt as you ride the track even more. Now, here's the other thing. What you could do is you could sign up for another class that you don't care about, right? Like if you're going there and you're gonna have no training, you're gonna have no practice, and you're focused on class, and you have a cruiser, sign up for open, right? And use the open for practice. Use the open class for practice. Use the cruiser for practice, and just focus on, if you don't do so well, then go back up for the next moto and try to get more track time. I shouldn't be telling you this, but man, back in the day, back in the 80s when they couldn't really regulate it, I remember showing up to a race in Bakersfield, in fact. In Bakersfield, I had a teammate that actually wasn't signed up to race on Friday, and he jumped into a moto. He just jumped into a gate with his age group and got on and rode the track. Hey, I'm not giving you any ideas. I'm not influencing you. You have to decide. Listen, I'm not giving you any ideas. You take that and you roll that up and smoke it. It's your idea. Friday only before world qualifiers. Yeah, that's a tough one, Jeff. If you're looking to race the world championships, then you're going to need to go and qualify. And then Gene says, I'd watch the most recent YouTube videos of races on Bakersfield. Yeah. Jack Baker says that's funny. Yeah, jumping into practice. It's hilarious. I got funny ones all day long. All right, let's see if we could try this again with JFT Performance. He says, using a timing system for BMX racing by Sports Timing Better Systems, how to use. Are you talking about a brand, or are you talking about how to set up timers? Okay, so I don't know about any brands, but in an effort to set up timing, this is how I would do it. I would have it to where two ways, sprints or the track. If you're gonna do sprints, no problem. Set up the timers right before the wheel, let it trigger, do the sprint, record the time, okay? Too easy. If you're looking to set up timers on the first straight or the track, look, I'm an acceleration guy. I like to focus on getting to the first jump first. That way you can control the race. You get ahead of the competition, and you can kind of manipulate where the race is going to go and kind of move over on people and get out front. That's where the race is at. I'll take those timers and I'll put it right at the gate drop. Okay? Or you can have it after the gate drop and just focus on and then put the other timer at the first jump at the bottom right before the first jump, and just focus on measuring that time of acceleration. And that's what you could do. Now, what do we want to talk about? What are we going to do with those times? Now, this is the way I like to analyze times. Let's say we do a set of 8 starts. What I'll do is I'll take those 8 times. I'll do what is called a standard deviation. That means removing the lowest time, which is going to be your fastest time, and then I'm going to remove the slowest time. Okay, remove those 2 times, and then you could do an average with the other times. That's what standard deviation is. You guys shouldn't be focusing on, oh, my fastest time. No, what is your fastest average time over time, over sessions? That's how I personally utilize data. Now, athletes like to, especially high performance, Olympic level, they want to know what their personal best is. That's great. Listen, I'm not trying to take that away from them. I'm not trying to tell you to discount that. But I want to be able to see what your repeatability is and what that repeatability is and how tight that repeatability of times are, okay, for not only that session, but also subsequent sessions or past sessions, and use that as a reference. That's how you could tell if you're getting better or not. All right, I don't know if that answers your questions, but hey, I'm going to give you my internal representation. If you're going to start talking about oranges, I'm going to start talking about how to make orange juice. USA BMX is starting to use a timing system that uses transponders attached to the fork. Okay. Yeah, okay. I probably went way off left field there, guys. Forgive me. Ted Miller, we're having fun now. Ted Miller says, hey, Hey, coach, what place did your friend come in? The one that got in the moto that wasn't signed up for the race on a Friday, and that wasn't his. You know, I don't even. Well, he definitely didn't get first or second, right? Otherwise, he would have been recorded and he would have got busted. They would have said, "Hey, come back. We didn't get your name." I remember that he checked out the first straight and the second straight, and then just kind of like fell back on the last half of the track. Joe Tagliavio says, greetings from Chile. Thanks for your guidance. Hey, thank you very much for showing up. I'm totally grateful and honored to be your coach and everyone else's coach. Man, what an awesome opportunity. What an awesome, yeah, man, this is like a clinic, right? Like the weekly clinic is here live, virtually, reaching out to you guys. This is my portal to the outside BMX world. And I'm grateful for the opportunity and really excited here. All right, guys, I think that's about it. Any other questions coming in? Ted Miller gives it a thumbs up and a laugh. I love that. Cool. All right, guys. That's it. That's all I got tonight for tonight's live feed. We're going to go live and get back on schedule next Tuesday, 5:30. If you guys have any questions, any comments, leave them in the video. And if not, if you guys have any comments or questions, you guys can always direct message me on Instagram at BMX Coach. Okay? You guys have a good evening. Again, I am honored and grateful for the opportunity to be your coach. And I'm really glad that you guys show up. At least somebody showed up. And that way I'm not sitting here talking to myself. So you guys have a good night and we'll chat soon. See you next week. Have a great week. Keep training hard. Keep working hard. Keep recovering. And man, keep bringing the joy and the love everywhere you go, especially at the races. I'm out.